Who's ready for chapter 7 of the Christmasaurus? And chapter 7 is called The Thing About Willliam. So let's see. 3 Christmases had passed since we first met Willliam, and this 10-year-old version of him wasn't quite the chirpy fella he used to be. But before we get into that, there's something else you should know about him. You see, the thing about Willliam was that Willliam couldn't walk. Willliam has a wheelchair. Did I forget to mention that? Sorry. Willliam had been in a nasty, horrible accident when he was a little boy, and that was the sad day he had lost his mother and gained a wheelchair. It had been awful and difficult, but it was a long time ago. Other than his shiny red dino decorated wheelchair, he was just like every other kid now. He went to school like every other kid, liked watching TV like every other kid, forgot his homework like every other kid, and occasionally picked his nose and ate it like every other kid. We've all done it. All the other kids at Hollyheath Primary School had got so used to Willliam having a wheelchair that they didn't even notice it anymore. That was until she started. The new girl who had moved into a house across the street from Willliam had joined William's class last year. She changed everything. Her name was Brenda Payne. Brenda was the meanest girl in the whole school, possibly the world. She was a greedy, loud, bossy bully who always had to be the centre of attention. She had annoyingly perfect twirly blonde hair. Twirls are like curls that you are showing off. And horribly straight, blindingly white teeth, and even though she was far too young, she would wear makeup to school, which I'm sure she stole from the other girls, and it made her look freakishly, deceptively pretty for such a nasty piece of work. Brenda's first day at school had started out just fine. She gave Willliam that awkward, sad look that most people gave him when they first saw his wheelchair, but Willliam was used to that look. He'd had years of experience of that look, so he just did what he always did. He smiled. Willliam had such a brilliant, confident smile that it shone out, just like that really strong torch you have lying in your cupboard at home that you never use. His smile instantly made that look vanish from Brenda's face. It was at lunchtime that it all went horribly wrong. The whole school was waiting impatiently in line for school dinner, which usually comprised something that sort of looked like chicken, coated in something that sort of looked like breadcrumbs, accompanied by soggy strips of potato that they called chips, and compulsory scoop of some sort of green mush. The school cafeteria was a large open space with a serving station along one wall and dozens of tables and chairs lined up across the permanently sticky floor. Although lunchtime was monitored by Old Man Wrinkleface, the school caretaker, he could usually be found snoozing in the corner with his feet on an upturned bucket, his hand clasping a flask of lukewarm tea and his hearing aid switched off. Lunchtime belonged to the kids. This was every new kid's nightmare. The stares, the glares, the flares. Old Man Wrinkleface always wore them. The air was thick with judgment, so the last person you would want to be on that day was Brenda Payne. She was first in line to get served, followed closely by Willliam, who watched as Brenda nervously handed over her tray for the dinner ladies to slop sludge on her plastic plate. Willliam followed suit and got his dinner, but as he spun his wheelchair round towards the cutlery table, he felt a bump under one of his wheels and heard an awful sound. Crunch! Ouch, that's my foot, screamed Brenda at the top of her squeakily perfect voice. She jumped backwards in pain, sending her tray of barely edible sludge flying up into the air. For a second, everything seemed to float over Brenda's head. The chicken, the green slop, the soggy potato, it all hung there. Just enough for Brenda to look deep into William's eyes, and it was at that very moment that he knew he'd just made an enemy. Brenda, the new girl, was standing in the middle of the cafeteria, covered in her school dinner, surrounded by the entire school. The sound of laughter erupted like a volcano. Children pointed and howled with glee. The cafeteria lit up with the flashes of hundreds of camera phones. #New Girl Gets Splattered was trending worldwide within seconds. Even Gregory Guff, the little kid who peed his pants every lunchtime, was peeing his pants laughing at Brenda. But what Brenda did next took everyone by surprise. She didn't cry. She didn't make a dash for the exit. Brenda stood very still, very silent, and didn't take her eyes off Willem. "I'm so sorry. It was an accident. I didn't see you behind me," Willem apologised, but it was hard to make his voice heard over the laughter. Brenda still said nothing. She just waited. Then, as the laughter started to quieten down, she slowly raised her left hand and removed the plastic plate that was sitting upside down on her head. Then she scooped up a huge handful of the compulsory green slop from her face and piled it high onto the plate. She raised her hand in the air like she was conducting an orchestra, and the strangest silence fell over the cafeteria. It was the quietest Willem had ever heard it. "My name is Brenda Payne," she announced to the school as some wobbly chicken slipped from her shoulder onto the floor. Nobody laughed. "I am the new girl." And with those words she pulled back her hand and launched the plate of green slop into William's face at point-blank range. It hit him with such a wallop that it sent his wheelchair whizzing backwards across the cafeteria, through the emergency exit and out into the car park. He came to a stop in a parking space reserved for teachers. As if that wasn't bad enough, a traffic warden then appeared out of nowhere and gave him a ticket for not parking his wheelchair in a disabled bay. "Anyone have any questions?" Brenda asked the school, but by this point everyone was too scared to even make eye contact with her. She picked up her tray, marched over to the serving station and scooped herself some fresh sludge, then sat down at the head of the central table and began to eat her lunch. From that moment on, Brenda Payne ran the school. Let's see what happens next time.